we can solve the mystery beyond doubt of who this skeleton actually is. None other than Cleopatra's sister, Arsinoe.
For centuries we've been told Cleopatra was the most beautiful woman to ever live. But new genetic research and forensic reconstruction point to a far more disturbing possibility: the last pharaoh of Egypt may have been carrying a biological ticking time bomb. Scientists have finally begun piecing together Cleopatra's genetic story, and what they are finding is far more frightening than anyone imagined. It suggests that her true enemy wasn't Rome, it was her own DNA. And to understand why the world is buzzing about Cleopatra's genetic profile, we have to begin with one unlikely woman. For 2,000 years, the Egyptian desert has guarded a single unanswered mystery: the location of Cleopatra's tomb. Most historians insist she's gone forever, buried somewhere beneath modern Alexandria, swallowed by earthquakes and the rising Mediterranean. But for the last 2 decades, one woman refused to accept that answer. Her name is Kathleen Martinez, not a typical scholar, but a Dominican criminal lawyer turned archaeologist. She didn't approach Cleopatra's disappearance as history, she treated it like a cold case murder. While the academic world searched in the same old places, Martinez followed her own suspect profile, one that led her 30 miles west of Alexandria, to the crumbling temple of Taposiris Magna. And in 2022, the earth finally gave way beneath her team. What they uncovered stunned archaeologists around the world. A massive underground tunnel, cut straight into solid stone, stretching more than 4,300 feet, nearly a mile long, 6 feet high, filled with mud and standing water, and heading directly toward the sea. Engineers quickly labeled it a geometric miracle, comparing it to the legendary tunnel of Eupalinos from ancient Greece. But the real question was, why? Why carve a mile-long tunnel through unstable bedrock? Why here? The discovery of a sunken port nearby hinted that Taposiris Magna wasn't an obscure outpost, it was once a major sacred hub. And Martinez believes the tunnel was built for one extraordinary purpose. Her theory? Cleopatra wasn't just hiding her body from decay. She was hiding her legacy from Rome. She refused to become Octavian's trophy, paraded in chains before the Roman mob. She wanted to lie forever beside Mark Antony, as a living incarnation of the goddess Isis. And to ensure that no Roman hand would ever violate her tomb, she concealed herself in a place no conqueror would ever think to search. Martinez may have found the entrance to that sanctuary. And while Cleopatra herself remains hidden, the evidence uncovered so far points to something far darker brewing within her bloodline. Deep inside the Taposiris Magna complex, archaeologists unearthed another chilling discovery: 16 rock-cut tombs containing mummies with glittering golden objects placed inside their mouths. Golden tongues. The ancient Egyptians believed one must speak to Osiris in the afterlife, pleading for acceptance. A golden tongue, golden eloquence, granted divine speech. But why were these individuals buried here? Martinez believes these were not ordinary nobles. These were Cleopatra's close associates, her inner circle. People entrusted with announcing her arrival before the gods. If her courtiers were laid to rest here, awaiting their queen, then the tomb of Cleopatra may be within reach. While the final chamber is still sealed, another skeleton, found far from Egypt, was thought to offer Cleopatra's genetic blueprint. But what scientists ultimately discovered turned everything upside down. To understand the dead at Taposiris Magna, we must revisit Cleopatra's brutal family history, and her most dangerous rival wasn't Roman. It was her younger sister, Arsinoe IV. While Cleopatra has been romanticized as a seductive strategist, her family operated more like a nest of predators. When Cleopatra was exiled, Arsinoe seized the throne. When Julius Caesar arrived, Arsinoe led the Egyptian resistance and nearly trapped him within the palace. Captured by Rome, Arsinoe's youth moved the crowds to pity, sparing her life. She was exiled to the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus. She believed the sanctuary would protect her. She was wrong. In 41 BCE, Cleopatra convinced Mark Antony to send assassins into sacred ground. Arsinoe was dragged out and murdered on the temple steps. For centuries, her remains were assumed lost. But in the early 1900s, archaeologists discovered a unique eight-sided tomb in Ephesus, the Octagon, containing a skeleton believed to be Arsinoe. The shape connected symbolically to the Pharos lighthouse of Alexandria, hinting at royal identity. If true, this skeleton held the key to Cleopatra's DNA. But science doesn't bend to myth. Early DNA attempts failed. And then came the breakthrough. The skeleton carried a massive symbolic weight. If it truly belonged to Arsinoe, then her skull measurements, which some researchers argued showed features suggesting an African maternal line, could rewrite Cleopatra's ethnicity. The idea gained traction through historians and popular culture, notably after a 2023 Netflix series cast Cleopatra as a black woman. But the entire theory hinged on one assumption: the skeleton belonged to Arsinoe IV. And that assumption was obliterated by modern science. In 2022, researchers in Vienna located the long-lost skull associated with the octagon skeleton. Using micro-CT scanning and DNA extraction from the dense petrous bone, they launched the first definitive analysis. The 2025 scientific reports study delivered a shocking verdict. The skeleton was not Arsinoe. Not a princess. Not even a woman. The DNA revealed a Y chromosome. The remains were those of a boy, aged 11 to 14, suffering from severe developmental deformities. His skull was twisted, his jaw malformed. Conditions like rickets or Treacher-Collins syndrome were likely. And genetically, he wasn't Egyptian at all, his ancestry traced to Italy or Sardinia. The identification of Arsinoe collapsed. And with it, all claims that the skeleton proved African heritage for Cleopatra. We were never looking at Cleopatra's mirror. We were looking at a tragic and unrelated child buried with mysterious honor. Which means Cleopatra's genetics must be traced not through speculation, but through the known lineage of her dynasty. And that is where the story becomes truly terrifying. Even without Cleopatra's DNA, history records exactly who her parents were, and their ancestry reveals a disturbing biological reality. Cleopatra was born into a dynasty obsessed with keeping bloodlines pure. The Ptolemies married brothers to sisters for generations, creating one of the most extreme cases of pedigree collapse in recorded history. Where a normal family tree expands, hers folded inward. Geneticists estimate Cleopatra may have had an inbreeding coefficient above 45%, almost double that of the famously inbred Spanish Habsburgs. What does that mean? Recessive diseases compound. Deformities become common. Organs weaken. Lifespan shortens. Her ancestors show horrifying signs. Ptolemy VIII, Physcon, massively obese, breathless, with bulging eyes and a swollen neck. Ptolemy XII, frail, lethargic, physically soft. Symptoms today suggest metabolic diseases and autoimmune disorders like Graves' disease, which causes bulging eyes, goiters, manic energy, and erratic behavior. Sound familiar? Cleopatra's legendary limitless vitality, her sleeplessness, rapid speech, restlessness, may not have been charisma. It may have been hyperthyroidism. Even the coins minted during her reign show traits consistent with her bloodline: a strong hooked nose, prominent chin, thick neck, features of Ptolemaic ancestry, not romanticized beauty. Yet somehow, Cleopatra avoided the catastrophic deformities expected of such intense inbreeding. He describes her beauty as not extraordinary. And he records that she was light enough to be carried in a sack by a single servant, suggesting extreme smallness or stunted growth. Signs of inbreeding. Despite her lineage, Cleopatra lived to 39, bore 4 healthy children, displayed no recorded deformities, commanded armies and fleets. A rare statistical outcome, where the genetic dice rolled in her favor. But even if she escaped physical deformity, the psychological and metabolic consequences may still have shaped her personality and decisions. And this reframes her relationships with Caesar and Antony. Was she seeking political power? Yes. But was she also seeking genetic rescue, fresh blood to save her children from the collapsing dynasty? It's possible. Her refusal to bear children with her own brothers suggests she knew the cost of continuing the cycle. If Cleopatra suffered from bone pain, metabolic disease, or hyperthyroidism, how did she maintain her power? Egypt was the pharmaceutical capital of the ancient world. She had access to opium for chronic pain, Kifi incense, a sedative for insomnia and anxiety, blue lotus, producing calm and euphoria, cosmetic salves and ointments, remedies she documented in her own medical writings. Her famous dissolving of a pearl in vinegar wasn't just decadence, it revealed chemical understanding. She may have been self-medicating, biohacking her own failing body to maintain the facade of a divine ruler. She may have concealed swelling, tremors, or eye bulging with carefully crafted cosmetics and jewelry. She may have fought her own biology every single day. Cleopatra may have spent years painting over the truth, masking the genetic disaster she inherited, presenting the world with the illusion of a flawless goddess. But beneath the surface, she may have been in constant battle, not with Rome, not with Caesar, not with Antony, but with the collapse of her own bloodline. And somewhere, deep beneath the stone of Taposiris Magna, the final chapter of that story waits to be uncovered. As researchers studied the submerged ruins near the ancient palace complex, sonar scans revealed something even more unexpected, a network of sealed chambers buried beneath layers of sand and coral. These weren't ordinary storage rooms. Their structure matched the architectural signatures of Ptolemaic royal crypts. But retrieving them wasn't easy. Every dive came with unpredictable currents, collapsing stones, and dangerous visibility. Archaeologists began referring to it as Cleopatra's last fortress. Inside the first partially open chamber, divers discovered gold-plated fragments of ceremonial objects, including a serpent-shaped ornament, a symbol directly associated with Cleopatra's regalia. It raised a stunning possibility: could the final possessions of the last pharaoh still be sealed somewhere in this underwater maze? Among the discoveries at Taposiris Magna, a partially preserved papyrus scroll emerged, written by a high-ranking priestess of Isis during the final days of Cleopatra's reign. The translation shocked historians. It described a night filled with chaos, torches burning, Roman soldiers advancing, and a secret ritual performed to preserve the blood of Isis, a phrase scholars believe might refer to Cleopatra herself. The priestess wrote of a great sorrow in the temple and a desperate attempt to safeguard sacred knowledge before the city fell. While the scroll didn't explicitly mention Cleopatra's burial, it hinted at an emergency interment conducted away from Roman eyes, leading many experts to suspect that Cleopatra's body might have indeed been transported through one of the ancient tunnels beneath the temple. Ground-penetrating radar revealed something astonishing beneath the surviving foundations of Taposiris Magna, a 1.3-mile tunnel carved deep below the earth, leading toward what used to be a submerged cliffside. The tunnel's engineering was so precise that researchers dubbed it the Egyptian Atlantis. As teams followed the pathway, they discovered niches carved into the walls, some still containing offerings, coins, statuettes of Isis, and funerary amulets that looked untouched for nearly 2,000 years. One sealed doorway at the tunnel's end remains unopened. Engineers believe it could lead to a room buried beneath both earth and sea water. Many archaeologists think this might be the final chamber connected to Cleopatra's burial story, possibly hidden intentionally to keep Rome from ever desecrating her tomb. Not all scholars agree on the traditional narrative of Cleopatra's death. A small but vocal group of historians argue that the timeline reported by Roman writers is suspiciously convenient and possibly fabricated. One radical theory suggests that Cleopatra may have escaped through the temple tunnels, fleeing toward the sea, and lived her remaining days under the protection of loyal priests. There's no hard evidence, only scattered clues, but the idea has sparked debate worldwide, especially after the underwater discoveries near Alexandria. Did Cleopatra truly die by the ASP? Or was the story crafted by Rome to erase a queen they feared? Even now, experts disagree. Geneticists hope to create a Ptolemaic DNA map that could one day help identify Cleopatra's lineage with certainty. But so far, the biggest challenge remains the same: Cleopatra was never mummified in traditional Egyptian style. If her tomb truly lies underwater, DNA preservation may be extremely limited. Still, researchers remain hopeful, believing that even a tiny fragment could rewrite history. More than 2,000 years after her death, Cleopatra remains a figure who refuses to disappear. New discoveries have brought us closer than ever, yet the final answer still lies hidden beneath earth, water, and legend. Her story is a puzzle with missing pieces, a queen of two worlds. A ruler trained in 18 languages. A strategist who outsmarted empires. And a woman whose tomb may now rest in silence, waiting for the world to find it. One thing is certain, the search for Cleopatra is far from over. Some historians argue that the biggest obstacle to finding Cleopatra's tomb isn't nature, it's Rome's version of the story. Roman writers like Plutarch and Cassius Dio shaped Cleopatra's legacy, painting her as a seductress rather than a scholar, a diplomat, and a multilingual queen. According to the cover-up theory, after Cleopatra's death, Octavian, later Augustus Caesar, ordered all records related to her burial to be sealed or destroyed. Why? Because her tomb and her legacy, if preserved, could have become a political symbol of resistance for Egyptians. This theory suggests Cleopatra's final resting place may have been hidden so effectively that even future Roman rulers couldn't find it, leaving behind only faint clues that archaeologists are still chasing today. A recently revived legend from ancient manuscripts speaks of a woman who served as Cleopatra's shadow, a trusted attendant trained to imitate the queen's voice, walk, and posture. Some believe this double was used for decoy purposes, especially during political crises. A fringe theory claims that the body Romans believed to be Cleopatra might have belonged to this mysterious double, enabling the Real Queen to escape using the temple tunnels. While most scholars dismiss the idea, the presence of two female remains found near the palace ruins, both from the right timeline, has kept speculation alive. During a recent underwater survey, divers found evidence of a smaller, secondary library structure near the remains of the Great Library of Alexandria. Among the fragments recovered are burnt papyrus pieces referencing the final rite of the last pharaoh. Experts believe these writings could be tied to the secret preparation of Cleopatra's burial, but the texts are too damaged to translate fully. Still, their discovery hints that the truth about her final days may once have been recorded, but later lost to fire and water. Inside a sealed chamber under Taposiris Magna, archaeologists uncovered a strange vaulted structure decorated with golden stars. The room appeared untouched since antiquity. At its center stood a pedestal carved with hieroglyphs referring to "She who unites the two lands and restores the throne." Many believe this message is about Cleopatra, who identified herself as the living embodiment of Isis. The vault contained ritual vessels and a stone box that once held sacred oils, possibly used during the queen's burial rites. Some experts speculate that this vault may have been the site of the final purification ceremony performed before Cleopatra's body was taken to her hidden tomb. During radar mapping, researchers detected a sealed chamber deep beneath the foundations of the Taposiris temple, a space that no team has yet fully accessed due to risk of collapse. The inscriptions outside the chamber refer to the Hidden One, a title used in temple crypts associated with deified rulers. If the chamber is ever opened, it could potentially hold the most significant archaeological discovery of the century. One major threat hangs over the search: the land beneath ancient Alexandria is sinking. Earthquakes, tsunamis, and gradual coastal collapse have already swallowed half the ancient city. Scientists warn that within the next 50 years, several potential excavation sites may be permanently lost under deeper water. This has turned the hunt for Cleopatra's tomb into a race against time. Each passing year makes the mystery harder to solve, as nature slowly erases the last traces of her world. Among the underwater ruins, a team uncovered two enormous statues depicting Egyptian queens wearing the vulture headdress, a symbol of divine protection. Their inscriptions mention the Lady of Perfect Beauty, one of Cleopatra's titles. These statues once stood at the entrance of a monumental structure that is now scattered across the seafloor. Experts believe this structure might have been part of a ceremonial complex used during Cleopatra's reign, and possibly connected to her parade routes, rituals, or her palace corridors. Their presence suggests that the queen's final journey may have passed through this very path, now lying silent beneath the Mediterranean. During the restoration of a damaged vault wall, archaeologists discovered faint carvings that resembled a star alignment chart. This was no ordinary map, it matched the night sky over Alexandria on the exact week Cleopatra died. Experts believe this chart may have been created by the Queen's personal astronomer, who was known to record celestial events for major royal rituals. More importantly, the map highlighted a hidden coordinate system that seemed to point toward a location southeast of the temple. If correct, this star map might be the first coded clue ever discovered about the possible direction Cleopatra's funeral procession took. In another recently opened section of Taposiris Magna, researchers found a small chamber filled with broken ceremonial crowns. These crowns were used in rituals symbolizing the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. Why were they broken? Some believe the priests smashed them intentionally as a sign of mourning, representing the fall of the last Egyptian ruler. Others argue this chamber might have been part of a secret funeral rite performed in absolute secrecy. Among the fragments was a gold leaf piece shaped like a cobra, similar to the uraeus Cleopatra wore. Even though it cannot be confirmed as hers, the design matches objects used exclusively by Ptolemaic royalty. Ancient scrolls refer to a mysterious funeral barge that carried Cleopatra's body after her death. This vessel was described as being covered in linen, perfumed with incense, and escorted by temple priests chanting the hymns of Isis. But no trace of this barge has ever been found. Some believe it sank while transporting the queen's body to her tomb. Others think it was burned to prevent Roman forces from seizing it as a trophy. If even a fragment of this sacred vessel is discovered underwater, it could dramatically reshape historians' understanding of Cleopatra's final journey. Egyptian oral traditions from villages near the Taposiris region mention a guardian spirit that protects a royal grave beneath the earth. While many dismiss this as folklore, some archaeologists believe these stories may be faint echoes of real ancient practices. According to the legend, a high priest remained in the tunnels after Cleopatra's burial, sworn to protect the queen's resting place until his last breath. Though the story cannot be verified, it reflects the deep secrecy surrounding Cleopatra's interment, secrecy so profound that it may have successfully concealed her tomb for more than 2 millennia. While inspecting the deepest part of the tunnel system, researchers noted strange acoustic properties. Whispers travel unnaturally far. Some believe this was an intentional architectural choice. This discovery suggests that the tunnel may not have been a simple passageway but a ritual environment, possibly used for the queen's funerary rites or preparation of her body. Historical letters written by Roman officials reveal a surprising detail. Augustus feared Cleopatra's popularity even after her death. He worried that if Egyptians ever found her tomb, they would honor her as a martyr and challenge Roman authority. Some historians believe this explains why no Roman record ever mentions the exact location of her burial. The fewer people who knew, the safer Rome felt. This secrecy may have ironically helped preserve the hidden tomb, preventing looters and conquerors from ever reaching it. Recent seismic activity in the Mediterranean has shifted parts of the underwater ruins. New cracks, new openings, and newly exposed corridors have appeared. Areas previously unreachable now offer fresh hope. For the first time in decades, archaeologists believe they are on the edge of a breakthrough. The shifting seabed may finally reveal entrances long sealed by earthquakes. Each new opening could hold relics, or perhaps the queen herself. As archaeologists expanded their exploration of the submerged coastline, they discovered that much of ancient Alexandria's royal quarter wasn't swallowed by the sea overnight, it slipped away in phases. Layer by layer, century by century, parts of the palace, courtyards, and ceremonial halls descended into the water as earthquakes tore through the region. One cliffside section, newly exposed by recent seismic shifts, revealed something astonishing: traces of a massive stone platform, wide enough to support a funerary procession. Its orientation matched ancient texts describing Cleopatra's final rites, performed facing the rising sun, symbolizing rebirth. The possibility emerged: this platform might have been the starting point of Cleopatra's last journey, guiding her body toward a secret location chosen by her most loyal priests. In 2024, an unexpected discovery shocked the academic world. A private collection in Europe revealed a badly damaged but authentic fragment believed to be from a secondary archive of the Great Library of Alexandria. This fragment contained a short but powerful line: "And the queen was taken to the place where Isis hears no footsteps." The phrase puzzled researchers. It didn't appear in any known Egyptian ritual text. But linguists pointed out that a place where Isis hears no footsteps was an ancient metaphor for a sealed sanctum, a chamber no mortal was allowed to enter after burial rituals were complete. This line, if genuine, might confirm that Cleopatra's tomb is not in the open or accessible halls of Taposiris Magna, but in a sealed inner chamber hidden far beneath it, protected from footsteps, invaders, and time. During further excavations, a stone tablet was found showing a blueprint-like carving of what seemed to be a double-layered sarcophagus. The outer layer was rectangular, but the inner chamber was shaped like a sanctuary, a design used exclusively for queens who were deified after death. The blueprint included symbols associated with the cult of Isis, suggesting that Cleopatra may not have been buried as a typical monarch, but as a living goddess returning to the divine realm. This strengthened the belief that her burial was no ordinary event. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't sloppy. It was sacred, intentional, and meticulously protected. In a newly opened section beneath the temple, archaeologists found a peculiar phenomenon, a small room illuminated by beams of natural light that filtered through unseen cracks in the stone above. Ancient Egyptians often designed such light channels in tombs to symbolize the soul's ascent to the heavens. On the chamber's back wall, a fading inscription read, "Her light shall rise even when her kingdom falls." Some believe this chamber might have been part of the queen's purification rites. Others think it could have been a symbolic gate meant to guide Cleopatra's spirit into the afterlife. Whatever its purpose, the design was undeniably royal and unmistakably connected to a high-ranking burial. Records found in nearby villages, preserved through oral storytelling, mention a group of priests who vanished after the queen's burial. These priests were believed to be guardians of royal secrets, entrusted with duties that went far beyond ritual. Local tradition suggests that after sealing Cleopatra's tomb, the priests sealed themselves in the tunnels, choosing to die within the sacred space rather than allow invaders to locate the queen's resting place. It sounds like myth. But archaeological teams found 3 skeletons positioned in the deepest part of the tunnel system, all male, all wearing remnants of priestly garments. Their presence raises haunting questions. Did they willingly die to protect Cleopatra? Or were they trapped by a tunnel collapse while completing their duty? Either way, it reinforces the idea that the queen's burial was protected by extraordinary devotion. A newly mapped section of the underground route revealed a long, straight corridor extending toward the sea. The corridor was lined with carved symbols depicting the journey of the soul, a guidebook for the dead in ancient Egyptian belief. Some scholars believe this symbolizes Cleopatra and Mark Antony, together even in death. Others argue it represents Cleopatra's unity with Egypt and Rome, a symbolic merging of 2 worlds she tried desperately to balance. Either way, the carvings mark this corridor as a significant part of her final rites. Working at dangerous depths, divers uncovered a hidden staircase descending into a space untouched for nearly 2 millennia. This chamber was heavily waterlogged, but the architectural style revealed it was once dry, which hints that the final tomb may lie even deeper, in an area not yet reached by seawater. The statue's position suggests the chamber was part of a grand funerary complex, not just a ritual room, but a gateway to something larger, perhaps the heart of Cleopatra's burial sanctuary. After years of combining sonar data, tunnel maps, seismic readings, and historical records, archaeologists finally identified a triangular zone beneath Taposiris Magna where multiple clues. All of these point toward one central underground pocket, a chamber still completely sealed, untouched by water, inaccessible without risking collapse. Experts believe this sealed void may hold the answer the world has sought for centuries, the true tomb of Cleopatra. But excavation is dangerous. The structure is fragile. And one wrong move could destroy the chamber forever. For now, the world waits. A tomb hidden by priests. Protected by legends. Concealed by earthquakes. Guarded by time. Cleopatra, the queen who ruled Egypt, challenged Rome, loved 2 of the most powerful men in history, and sealed her legacy in mystery, may lie only meters away from discovery. But until the final chamber opens, her story remains untouchable, suspended between myth and truth.